Hello there. I hope you are doing great. So in this video, we'll build a web server in Golang using ChatGPT. You may have heard about ChatGPT. It has been quite popular in news and media these days, and for a good reason. So to understand what ChatGPT is, first we'll understand what chatbot is. Chatbot is any computer that mimics human-like chatting behavior. So there have been attempts in past to create chatbots using Rasa and other applications. So you may have seen the chatbots in the railway ticket booking sites and food delivery sites. They try to mimic human-like chatting behavior, but so far they had failed. But there has been constantly attempts to make it better. So OpenAI is a company that is behind this ChatGPT. So ChatGPT version 3 was released in March 2020 by OpenAI, and then after it gained popularity when its version 3.5 was released in April 2023. It has been heavily trained and very sophisticated algorithms have been used to train it. It has been fed over 370 GB of text data, which is a lot of text. I mean, it has been fed all the Wikipedia pages and several books in PDF formats and several articles and blogs and a lot of text has been fed to train it to make it understand how humans chat. So the version 3.1 3.5 of ChatGPT is free to use. You can just go into chat.openai.com and you can register yourself and you're free to use. OpenAI has also released version 4 of ChatGPT, but it is a paid service priced at $20 per month. So if you like, you can try that. In this video, we'll build a simple API, CRUD API that manipulates movies data. So you may already know about CRUD, what CRUD API is. That's CRUD, create, read, update, and delete operations. And we'll not use any external dependencies, and we'll first try to create it using an in-memory database, the array of structs, and then we'll try to make it into SQLite tree, and we will use ChatGPT to write some small snippets. In theory, ChatGPT can write us the whole code in one go, but in my experience, it is filled with bugs and it is hard to debug the whole code. It's better to make ChatGPT write small snippets that we can use in our code, and we'll modify them accordingly. So it is a much more efficient way of coding. So this is our diagram how our movies endpoints will be. The slash movie will have two methods associated with it, get and post. The get method will get all movies, and the add the post method movies, and the get on slash id will get the specific movie. The put will update that specific movie, and the delete method would delete that movie. To start our web server, we'll create a movie handler struct that would implement the handler interface in the HTTP package. So this interface is used to start any server, and it has some specific function with a signature that takes in response writer and the address to the request object. So apart from that, we'll also implement the repository pattern that separates the concern of talking to the database into a separate object, which is commonly called as repository. In some cases, it is also called as store. And also, while implementing repository, we will create a generic interface that will be called movie repository. Different repositories can implement that interface, and those repositories may be talking to different types of database. Like we can use in-memory database, or we can use SQLite or Postgres, MongoDB, any of those, as long as they implement this movie repository interface. So this kind of structure is called dependency injection, that instead of embedding the implementation, we use a common interface that will be used by the handler. So the handler will take a movie repository interface, and that's how our code will be structured. So now there's another pattern very commonly used while developing web servers, that's called middleware pattern. So if you want to add certain functionalities in certain endpoints, this middleware pattern comes in very handy, because you don't have to implement the same functionality for every endpoint. You can create a middleware and just add that middleware to any endpoint that you wish to handle. So this is commonly used to add logs of the requests and responses, and also for the authentication. So you can specify certain endpoints which you want to be authenticated, and you can simply wrap the middleware in the handler. So now let's start coding. So to initialize, I'll just do go mod init, and we'll create a main.go. I'll create some code that will give ChatGPT some context and as to here how we are going to structure our code and how we are going to implement our code. So this is how we want to structure our code. We'll first initialize the new in-memory movie repository, and then we will pass this repository into the new movie handler function, and this will give us the handler object, and that handler object will pass into the listen and serve. So now we'll give this context to the ChatGPT for it to create some code. So I set it to behave like a professional Golang developer, and I told it that I'm building a web server that manages the movie data, and the movie will contain title, movie ID, director, and here's some initial code. So it gave me the movie struct, although this should also contain JSON tags, but will ask us to do that. This contains movie repository. It only has get methods. So I need to ask it to add all the CRUD operations and add tags to this. So here it added some JSON tags, and it says add, get all, update, delete. This looks fine. And here's the new in-memory stuff. Although we can ask it to make this in-memory one thread safe, but for now I think this will do. Making it thread safe is pretty sad. Mutex here, and we can call mutex.lock and defer mutex.unlock in every operation that we perform here. So we can do this by ourselves. So we don't need to trouble ChatGPT for this. I will ask it to also create an SQLite movie repository. So it says for that we need to import this package. This is a fairly common package that is used to work with SQLite tree in Golang. Although there are more new packages, but this is the most common one. So we'll stick to this. So here it writes the SQL queries for select, insert, delete, update. As you can see, this is fairly fun, but we'll see if this works or it gives us some errors. So I have got the package that we need, and I'll just copy this code. So this is not how we wanted to structure our code. So I'll change this part manually itself instead of asking ChatGPT to do that. So I'll delete this, and we just have to change our this new movie handler to implement the handler interface. So it says error that it doesn't implement the serve HTTP method. So we just need to implement that. So you can see we cannot blindly rely upon this ChatGPT, but it can be fairly helpful. So this is the standard function signature of any HTTP handler. So here we will just define a func. So for the get, there will be two cases. So this implements our handler function. One more thing we need to do is to implement a logger middleware. We just needed this code. And it will also show us how we can use that. I mean, this is not the right way to use, because you have to add this in every function. There's a better way of using it. I'll just show you how. Inside the movie handler, I'll just call the logger middleware and passes the handler. So this is a better way to use. So this shows a indirect method. What we can do is go mod tidy to fix this. Yeah. So now first what we can do is first we will test it with the in-memory repository, all the functions, and then we'll just try it with the SQLite one. So for that I'm using this extension, Chrome extension, yet another REST client. You can use anyone you wish. So I'll create a new request with this title inception 2, and after posting one, I'll call this. This seems to work fine. If you see, the movie ID starts with 0. This may be an error. Let's add in another. I'm adding another movie, and let's see what is the ID it has. So there's one bug that every ID is 0. Let's fix that, and also we can fix the thread safe issue. For that we'll call in the sync package. So these are only the 2 lines that we need to pass into every function to make it thread safe. So making it thread safe means if there are multiple simultaneous requests, the movie's data would not be different for different. I mean, if one operation is accessing the movie's array and modifying it, the other one couldn't use it simultaneously. When the first one completes its job, only then the second one can access that. So this makes it thread safe. And we had to change the issue with the ID. So every ID, like if I say ID 0, it will give me invalid movie ID. This is another issue. So while adding, what we need to do is, so we can simply assign the ID as the movie. Now let's see if this fixes our code or not. So I'll just post this. I'll post another one. So there's one slight issue that it starts with 0. What we can do is just increase the, all we need to do is +1 here. This will fix. So yeah, so I think this works fine. We can get movie ID. It says movie invalid movie ID. So here for all the functions, it gets the ID from the query parameter. It expects the ID to be passed into query parameter, but for us it is being passed through the path parameter. So what we can do is create a helper function that would get the ID from path parameter. it will take in the request and it will return movie ID and an error. And we'll just use this. So we'll just use this function everywhere the ID is being used. So now let's check this again. So this starts with 1. Let's try to get this with ID. Yeah, it gives only the one movie we called for, and I can try to update it. And if I try to get it, there's a bug in the update function. So all we need to do is just to add the updated movie.movie ID equals to ID. I think this should work. So these are small errors that we need to fix. So if we would have created everything from scratch from ourselves, then we would definitely have seen these small issues. But it's with ChatGPT, so there are trade-offs. It works fine, and just if I just update it. Yeah, it updated. And let's do the same for delete. It turns empty. So now one last thing we can do is, if instead of using the in-memory, if we wanted to use the SQL, so all we'll do is new SQLite movie repository, and we'll pass in the database name. So I'll just do temp.db. It does returns error as well. Okay, so we can handle that. So it started with the SQL database. So here we can see the database has been initialized. It has created the tables. If I show you here, this create table command has been executed, and this has been stored in this temp.db. So let's first try to get it empty, and I'll just post this, and then I'll just get, and I'll just post another one. And I'll get both of them, and if I just try to update any one of it, and then I do get, yeah, it has changed this. And if I try to delete any one of this, yeah, it has deleted. The benefit of using SQLite is that even if we close this server and start it again, the data we have stored will still be there. I'll just show you this also once, so you can be confident that this works. Yeah, so I had closed that and started it again, and still the last movie we stored is persisted in this stem.db. So as you can see, with the very little effort, we were able to create a fairly good structured web server using in Golang. If I remind you again that we have created this whole project using ChatGPT 3.5 version that is free and open to use. The ChatGPT 4 version is even more powerful and gives better responses than this. So So I haven't yet tested with that, but I think that would make this coding a lot easier. I hope you got to learn something new from this, and thanks for watching.